It is good to welcome Karen Atkins on this program. She's a musician and a spiritual counselor based in California. So, where are you based specifically?
Actually, I am based in North Idaho.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Well, I
made a
said correctly
move
then.
a few years ago and never looked back. Love it here. It's
Wonderful.
a very, very beautiful place in Idaho.
Yeah. Well, first, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, where did you move to Idaho from?
Well, I was living in California. Originally, I'm from New York, and I spent most of my life there, and then uh, moved to California in 2010, and then was there for 10 years in Northern California in the Bay Area. And then in 2020, I decided to make a big change and moved to North Idaho, where I'm. It's a really amazing community, actually, here. A lot of people who care deeply about the community, each other, the earth, creativity, a lot of things. So it's been a really amazing experience to be here and to find the kind of community that I've kind of always knew existed in the world, but never quite felt in such a large way,
Yeah, I understand. I know that one of the big cities in Idaho is Boise. So, how far are you from that place?
I'm about 7 hours north of Boise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's quite
Boise is
far.
pretty much southern Idaho.
Oh, okay. It's quite
Boise
far.
and then Ketchum, like the ski area, Sun Valley. That the Sun Valley is about 10 hours southeast. And yeah, so I'm kind of
Okay. Yeah.
northwest Idaho.
So how have
Pretty
you
about an hour from the Canadian border, so pretty
Oh,
close.
okay. Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
what is the closest Canadian town or city to where you live?
Okay, Nelson's kind of close. It's not the closest city, but I mean, some, small city. I don't really go to Canada very much,
Hmm.
but we're kind of like we're below BC, but sort of close to Alberta. So kind of,
Okay.
because we're very, very close to Washington, maybe about, well, from directly is probably about a half hour, 40 minutes, but like from Spokane, which is the biggest city in Washington, we're about an hour and a half because it's south and then west.
I see.
I'm sorry, south, yeah, southwest.
Mhm.
My
So
geography is not that great, but it's pretty good.
how have you been enjoying the life of Idaho so far?
Boy, it's the summers here are literally heaven on earth. The It's beautiful. The weather is relatively perfect. Today is a little bit warm. It's like the low 90s, which is pretty warm for here. It's like usually in the 70s and 80s all summer. It's beautiful. And there's lakes and there's rivers and mountains and lots of trees. And yeah, I work with a bunch of um, people kind of growing food and just sharing different resources and there's a big musical community here, so I've been recording music and also working with kids, not just kids actually, but we have a program called the Collab Lab where we're working with we started working with just teenagers and young adults, but now it's become really popular, and so we've we've actually expanded to having anyone join. And we, through the recording process, we help support the creative process. So writing, songwriting, arranging, production, performing, and also we've we've done other projects too related to like radio plays and skits and stories and that kind of stuff. And so anything that has to do with recording and just helping people get out of their creative, shell, and start to create. And it's been amazing. I mean, even like people who didn't think they could sing or didn't think they had any talent in writing music, and then all of a sudden they're writing stuff. They're like, "Wow, this is really good." And so that's been super exciting to just kind of witness people's excitement about their own possibilities and potential. So
Yeah, yeah, I can certainly get that. Yeah. So, what do you
yeah.
value most in life in general?
Oh, sorry, you just muted yourself.
Yeah,
What do I value most in what?
life in general.
Oh, in life. Okay. Um, what do I value most in life? That's a big question. I would say definitely um, the ability to feel free in the things that I'm doing and expressing, the connections with nature, with people. Um, yeah, yeah. So being creative, being feeling free, being connected. Community is really important to me. Um, yeah, trees. Couldn't live without trees. Yeah.
I see. So, of the three places that you've lived, New York and California and currently Idaho, which provide the most of those and which provided the least?
Oh, this place has provided the most of pretty much all of it, really. Although where I lived in California was very, very beautiful. The land is beautiful, the mountains. I mean, it's a beautiful area, but I didn't feel as connected to the people as I do here. And in New York, I felt connected to the people, but it's, living in New York City is pretty jungle-ish, concrete jungle-ish. And I lived there for a long time. And I enjoyed it. It's kind of the thing when you live in New York, you kind of feel like, how could anyone live anywhere else? I mean, that's just sort of the mentality of, well, there's so much happening here, everything's happening here, nothing happens anywhere else. And then when you leave New York, you're like, how could anyone actually live there full time? There's so much, I feel like parts of you have to shut down in order to be there. There's so much input. Um, and just so many people. I remember even when I moved to California. I mean, here in Idaho, I lived in a small town of 10,000 people, so it's very small. But even when I moved to the Bay Area and I would go to San Francisco and I'd walk around the streets and go, where are all the people? Because New York was so many people. And in some ways, it's nice to go back. My family still lives there, so sometimes I go back and I just enjoy people watching, go to Central Park or just walk down the street. I love walking, so I'll just walk everywhere. And it's kind of amazing to me. Actually, one great thing about New York that I've never had almost anywhere else I've lived or even traveled is the not just the diversity of people, but the way that the people actually do integrate. Because there's a lot of places where there's a lot of diversity, but everybody's in their separate pockets and nobody really interacts. And in New York, it's sometimes like that, but a lot of times I think people really, it's like it just doesn't matter who you are. People connect of all different places and mentalities, and I really do like that about New York. But people are pretty open minded here too. So yeah, definitely I have made the best choice for living. I can't think of a better place to live, and I've traveled all over the world through teaching, through playing, performing music, and just traveling, doing other things. I have been to a lot of amazing places, but this place really it feels like home.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So, what do you hope to achieve this year?
Oh, good question. Um, I've been working on some recordings, and I am really excited about the new music well, some of it's new recordings of old music, like some really old, like when I was in college, um, and some new music. And so I'm going to finish those recordings and some other stuff that I've been working on and put that out into the world. And I'm working on actually some sync licensing projects. So that should be interesting to see how that goes. Um, and I'm also super obsessed with learning Spanish. And I've been learning and traveling to different Spanish speaking countries. And so definitely one of the things I'd like to achieve this year is to become really, really fluid with conversation. I mean, I'm pretty good. I can understand most things and I can definitely hold a conversation, but I feel like I talk slowly because I'm thinking too much about the translation and the grammar. Um, so that's one goal. And then to also with another thing that I put out recently with a group of musical friends here is something called the Cool Music Club. And that is really, really simple. It's basically, we just put it out on Substack just the other day, so it's brand new. But what we want to achieve with that is sharing good quality music with as many people as possible. And so we're asking people to share with us music that they like, and then we'll kind of listen to it and most likely share that music with others. And it's we all a bunch of us have our own mailing lists and other things as well. So we're just kind of getting it out there to whoever to share good music, because I think in the world today the music industry is completely ridiculous. There's really very little there's very few possibilities for people um, to get exposure to large audiences without compromising their values. And so, but there's a lot of really talented musicians out there and artists and songwriters who deserve to be heard and received. And so we just started that. So like I said, it's super small. We haven't even really sent out an announcement yet for our Substack, but I just launched it the other day. And we're excited to get that going. So that's Cool Music Club on Substack. If anybody wants to go there to check it out, we'd love to hear people's suggestions for music to share, and we'll be sharing. And that's it. It's really simple. We're not selling anything. We're just here's some good music, and we'll also highlight. Most of the music is going to be stuff that people may not have heard. And occasionally there might be some more popular songs, but we're going to be highlighting components of those songs that we really like. So just also helping to educate people on how to listen to music. Oh, this is a cool, like, listen to this flam here on the drum fill. This is, I think, what makes it really interesting. Or this is a really cool guitar texture. This is, wow, listen to this performance when this person hits, this note, or the emotion behind it, or these lyrics are really, really interesting. Have you listened to that before? This bass line, whatever.
All
So
right.
I'm very excited about
Yeah, yeah, I'm quite excited too. This podcast is actually on Substack, so we're on the same platform.
it. Yeah, great. Well, then let's share each other.
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
You can reach out to my podcast page, and then I'll forward your Substack page.
Absolutely. I would love to do that, Sean.
Okay. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're learning Spanish. It's a language that I've been wanting to learn for years, but I haven't had the opportunity to. Right now, I'm actually learning Hungarian since I live here in Hungary.
Wow. Where are you from originally?
Hanoi, Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam. Actually, my Spanish teacher is living in Vietnam right now.
Okay, cool. Which
She
part?
loves it there. She's in Phuoc.
Hmm. Okay,
Um,
I think it may be in the south of Vietnam.
yeah, I think it's in the south. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Although right now she's actually in Spain. In fact, I hadn't met her. We met through one of the online services. And by the way, if you want to learn Spanish, there's some really great YouTubers out there to just get started. And then I definitely recommend getting a teacher every once in a while if you can, just for talking purposes. And she's amazing, the teacher, Daniela. Um, but anyway, so we've been talking for over a year now, just about a little over a year, and we hadn't met. But this year, her family, because they leave Vietnam during the monsoon season, they don't really want to stay there. So for 4 months they travel around, and so they went to Japan, and then they took a cruise to LA, and then they drove up the coast, and they visited me here in Idaho. and then they drove back and just flew to Spain because their family lives there. So now they're there for a while. Then they're going to go back to Vietnam. But it was so cool after just speaking on Zoom for a year or whatever to be able to connect and meet her husband and her kids, and it was really cool.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, monsoon season is definitely a Southern Vietnamese thing. I've
Yeah.
lived in Hanoi, which is in the north, and we have heavy rains, but we have never had like a season of heavy rain.
Oh wow, that's much better.
Mhm. Yeah, so how would you distinguish, say, good music from, say, not so good music?
Ooh. I don't know. Okay, so I probably am not the I don't know that I have the same musical taste as everybody, but in my humble opinion, um I really like music that um is unique and is melodic. Personally, I mean, I suppose there can be good music that's not melodic, but I love melodies. So for me, I prefer music that's melodic, that maybe has some harmonies, either in the vocals if there's vocals, or in the instrumentation. Um, that's well arranged so that there's thought gone into. It's not just like a couple of chords and I mean, sometimes a couple of chords can make a good song for sure, but it's uh, it's definitely nice to have a variety and to have the music take you somewhere. So I guess part of me, what for me, what distinguishes something that's really good is if I feel like I've gone on a little journey, and I've listened to the song and the song has made me emote in some way, or it's made me visualize something, or it's relaxed me, or it's given me energy. Something like that is also a sign of good music when it speaks to you, and you feel like you can relate to it either just through the instrumentation or through the lyrics or the performance of the instruments or the vocals or whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, who are your most important musical influences?
I just for whatever reason, even though I didn't really grow up in the 70s, I really love 70s music. Um, and I would say, and even some late 60s and maybe early 80s, because I did grow up in the 80s. So I think, that some of that music is good, but after a certain point, I didn't really like it. And I don't really like music from the 90s, even though that was really kind of when I was, you know, younger and kind of whatever. But a lot of the 90s music I'm not as interested in. But I would say so as a guitar player, Jimmy Page majorly influenced me. I listened to Led Zeppelin all the time when I was younger. I loved bands like America. Um, they have a greatest hits album that practically every song is I love, and they were actually I didn't know this when I was listening to them back in the day, but they were also produced by George Martin, who produced the Beatles, and so everybody knows George Martin because of the Beatles, but I didn't realize he produced America, and their songs are really good, and I think the arrangements and production are really great, especially because of that. Um, I love Fleetwood Mac, Seals and Croft, Todd Rundgren. Um, I was really into Jim Morrison for a time of the Doors. Um, Maybe just because he was really cute, but I don't know. Yeah, those are some of my influences. When I was in college, I actually went to college with a lot of musicians and people who really wanted to be professionals, and some who became professionals. So I I kind of got some um, influences there, and yeah. So I would say a lot of stuff from the 70s are really pop music from the 70s. Chicago, I loved. Um, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. my favorite 70s act, it's undoubtedly Lou Reed.
Lou Reed. Yeah, I like Lou Reed. I think, like I said, because I'm more into melodies and he's not super melodic, he wasn't always my favorite, but he had like a cool, like his stuff was cool,
Yeah,
and his lyrics were cool.
yeah,
And the
and
Bee Gees. I love the Bee Gees.
mhm,
And I mean, how can you not like the Bee Gees?
yeah,
Maybe people think they're really cheesy, but they have incredible harmonies and vocal, melodies, and their songs are just very well crafted.
certainly. Yeah. Although I always prefer, Chic as the disco act.
Chic was definitely definitely one of my favorites back then.
Yeah, and of course Lou Reed was a New Yorker. So
Exactly. Oh, and Billy Joel. Speaking of New Yorkers,
yeah, that
um,
too.
Billy Joel. I loved Billy Joel. Really great songwriter.
Okay. So tell me about your upbringing in New York.
Let's see. Woo. Um, I was very athletic as a kid, and then I ended up, um, but I started playing music at the age of 3. I had a favorite song, and I would make my mom play it and dance around. And my sister was taking piano lessons, and I begged and begged and begged when I was 2 years old to have her let me take lessons, and she wouldn't let me until I was 3 because she didn't think I could focus because I was really, really energetic. They thought that I was hyperactive, but I actually wasn't. I was just excited about life. So they finally gave me a chance to take lessons at 3, and it was like playing the piano was one of the only things that really relaxed me. Even though I would run around, they wouldn't even take me to a restaurant till I was like 8. But when I was playing the piano, I could sit there for hours and just play, and it was amazing. But then I started, so I played the piano till about junior high, and then I got into sports, so I kind of let that go for a while, and then in high school, I was on the field hockey team with this friend of mine who I thought was really cool, and she was starting an all girls band, and she was like, "Hey, I'm looking for a girl who plays the guitar to be in my all girl band. Do you know any girls who play the guitar?" And I was like, because my father had told me he played the guitar, and he was like, "If you ever want to play the guitar, I will support you. You can use my guitars." He had like 2 guitars. He's like, "You can take one of my guitars. I'll get you guitar lessons if you want." And so that day, I came home from school, and I was like, "I'm gonna take you up on that offer, Dad." And he was like, "Okay, great." And so a month later, we were playing Day Tripper in front of 800 people at my high school auditorium, and I never looked back. So I got into playing the guitar pretty heavily and stayed in that band until college, and then started writing music in college. And the rest of the stuff that I did was, I did photography, I I did writing, but music was really. I actually did some theater as well, but music was definitely the biggest part of my childhood, I'd say.
Ah, yeah, that's cool. So do you still maintain that excitement for life as you were when you were younger?
I do actually. I think I don't know if I'm more excited about it now than I was or not. Even though I know that we're living in a time when the world is in a challenging place. Um, but interestingly, I've known that since I was really young. Like pretty much as long as I can remember, I have known that, let's just say, the things that we were being told about how the world is were not necessarily true. And I I don't know why. Nobody told me that. Nobody, in fact, my family was pretty mainstream. um, and I was always kind of the odd bird in the family. But I just knew that something wasn't quite right. And so in a way, part of the reason that I'm might be, or that I'm at least as excited, if not more excited, about what's happening in the world, or about the world, about living now as I was then, is that I actually feel some of that stuff is actually freeing up, even though it looks like it's getting worse. Like people will say, oh, all these wars, these terrible things, everybody's fighting against each other, this oppression, whatever, you want to say. And I'm not political, so I don't buy into any type of political weaponry at all, because I do believe it's weaponry. Um, but I think that the things that are not right about the world are ready to shift and are starting to shift. And there's a lot of people who are waking up to realizing that for a thriving future, humanity really needs to really like just get with this idea of what loving one another actually means, and that we really need to come together in community, supporting one another, speaking up when things don't feel right, even if we are um, not supported. um, and I think that's happening more and more, and I think it's really exciting, and it's one of the things that I find here in this community, that I love. But again, not just because people have like a particularly like the same exact opinion as me. In fact, I feel like I've met people with more diverse backgrounds and whatever since I've been here than pretty much anywhere in my life. A lot of times living on the coasts, I think people are very similar minded. Um, and I feel like that's different here. But yeah, I feel like I'm excited to see how nature decides our future with our support, and our alignment with nature to be able to make that happen. And I think it's very, very exciting.
Okay. Yeah. So, what are the things that you've been told about the world that you find to be well mistaken?
Oh, you know, uh, there's a lot of things. And if I get, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes about that, because I feel like, as soon as you mention certain words or whatever, people get opinions about it. But let's just say it's so many things. So I'm also a healthcare practitioner and educator, as you know, and I've been involved in the healthcare field for a really long time. And um, you know, the Hippocratic Oath, that all doctors take when they get their medical degree. The first thing is first, do no harm. So when they're being taught how do you deal with a patient, the Hippocratic Oath is the least harmful thing you do first. And then you work backwards. So you wait to do harm until it's the absolute last resort. So for example, in Chinese medicine, which I've studied extensively, the very, very first thing that they teach you, and to be as healthy as you can be, is meditation. And then it's qigong and tai chi movement, and then nutrition. And the very, very, very last thing, there's 8 tiers. The very, very last one is actually acupuncture. Even though most of the time you go to an acupuncturist and then they just do acupuncture, which is not, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. But what I'm saying is a good acupuncturist or a good Chinese doctor will say to you, what's your diet like? How disconnected or connected do you feel? Are you doing any type of internal, connection exercises, or not even exercise, but do you connect? Are you moving your body in a way to build energy? Like those kinds of things are critical to health. And in our current world, and ever since I grew up, We weren't taught that. We were taught, the doctor is, oh, you have this, we're going to take this out, we're going to give you a pill, we're going to, and that seemed wrong to me. And I remember going to a doctor when I like my pediatrician when I was like 5, and the guy was extremely overweight. Okay, I'm nothing against people who are overweight, but you could tell he was an unhealthy overweight because he had gained a lot of weight, whatever. I don't know what happened to him, but he was not healthy and he smoked. And I'm like 5 years old saying to my mom, I don't want to go to this doctor. And she was like, well, why not? And I said, because he's not healthy. And I don't see how somebody who isn't healthy is going to help me be healthy. And so that's one example. The educational system is another, because I spent a lot of time in there too. The financial system, many of these things that we're told, you have to be a certain way in order to survive in the world, and most of the time those aren't true. Um, that you have to apply yourself and do like a specific job your whole life in order to earn enough of a living so that you can have the things you want. No, you need to be happy, and then you think about the things that you want to do. And if you're excited about the things that you're doing, you're most likely going to be successful as long as you commit. I mean, I'm not saying people shouldn't take responsibility and be committed, but anyway, those are a couple of examples. I don't know if that helps.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, those are some big ones.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose a good follow-up would be, what does it mean to be happy?
What does it mean to be happy? Um, well, definitely to feel at peace with yourself, I think is critical, because if you're not at peace with how you're living, how you're engaging with the world, the things that you're saying and doing and feeling, you're never going to be happy. So that's critical. Um, and then, kind of like I was just saying before, I think asking yourself, what do I enjoy? Who do I enjoy doing it with? Where do I enjoy doing it? Um, and how do I enjoy approaching things? And then doing your very best to apply yourself to those things um, can make you really happy, because a lot of times people ask you, what's your definition of success? Well, I mean, for me, that's another thing that I feel like we've been severely lied to about, is what success really is. um, and I think it's one of the reasons people get so lost today. I think about my niece and nephew, and a lot of people in their teens and early 20s, and they're like super lost right now because they're being told certain things. Oh, you need to go to college that costs like $100,000 a year or some crazy thing, and be indebted for the rest of your life, and then slave away at a job that doesn't necessarily appreciate you, when there's really other ways to engage and interact. um, and yeah, it's like we're being told to follow certain rules that don't make sense, that don't really um, apply to our true happiness. And I think it's really confusing for the youth right now, because either they are listening to that and they're following along with that and they're still confused, because the truth is that things are changing, but what they're seeing and what they're maybe doing, because out of fear or out of ignorance, they don't know any better, they're following a certain path, but it doesn't make them happy because something in nature is changing, and they don't know how to go along with that, or they know that it's not right, but either maybe their friends don't understand, or their perspective, or the place that they live doesn't support that kind of thing. And so I think that there's all kinds of different ways that people now are engaging with life that are very confusing, and they don't have a lot of support or people they can talk to help them understand. And it's one of the things that we hope to do even more of. What we've been successful with so far in the Collab Lab is we are. This isn't just about being creative. It's about helping people, anyone. Like I said, we started with the youth, like teenagers and young adults, but we're really expanding it to whoever wants to have more confidence to express themselves and to express what they're really feeling, and not just what they think people want to hear, and how to interact in a way, because any business, any relationship, any community, the only way that we're going to be successful is if we connect to one another, and we're actually curious and care about what's going on with the other person. There's someone that I've spent quite a bit of time over the last 5 years listening to her work, and her name is Dr. Jacqueline Hobbs. And she talks about something called the currency of care. And I feel that that is like the linchpin to our future for us to understand what that means. Her basic premise on that is that the idea of money, that money isn't necessarily even native to this planet. It was brought here, potentially for not the best reasons, and that we have to decide how we're going to engage in exchange into the future. And that the way that we do it has to be that I care equally, not more or less, about your well-being as I care about mine, because I realize that if there's an imbalance either way, things will not work in the long run. That really, to have any successful interaction, business, whatever, it has to have a balance of me actually considering what's going on with the other person and what's going on with myself. So, because a lot of people will slant themselves one way or the other, and it has to be both. And so I think that's kind of the key to happiness on any level.
Okay. Finally, what impact do you hope to achieve in the world?
To be a model, perhaps, for listening to yourself, um, and and being brave enough to share what you're really feeling. Um, and as it relates to music, um, if people just enjoy my music and it makes them happy, or it makes them more relaxed, or it makes them feel better, or whatever, that would make me super happy. That they're just enjoying my music, because that is something that I really enjoy expressing and sharing. So it would be super cool if there, anyone really, it doesn't have to be a billion people, but that the people who listen to my music feel uh, happy to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I hope more people will be introduced to your music as well as your spiritual counsel after listening to the show.
Great.
Yeah, on that
Thank you
note,
so
thank
much.
you. Yeah, thank you very much, Karen Atkins, for joining the show.
Yeah, thank you, Chung. And maybe I'll see you in Vietnam one day.